Yeah, go ahead. Note taker extraordinaire, I would like to say. Go over here.
Intern.
David Curtis, resident coach.
Baseline Santa Clara Lions.
Mike Waukee, Santa Clara Pal.
Okay, thanks, everybody. So just by way of observations already made and who's in the room today. And last meeting, we introduced Damon Sparacino, our Director of Parks and Recreation. I think it was like his first week on the job. So now we've baptized him fully into Santa Clara and he's a month old. And we're here today and we're trying to move this project forward. Cynthia Bojorquez has announced her retirement and so is transitioning right now, and her last day with the city of Santa Clara is the end of February, and we'll be transitioning out. So Parks and Recreation is carrying this project forward with Damon and the team in the room here. And so based on last meeting, what we attempted to do was update the Wade Brummal policy based on the conversation we had, and we were able to send it out last night. But I'd love to get reactions to that from the folks online and in the room. Did we hit that right? Are there any edits, changes to that document? So we'll have that conversation. And then we'll go into what we ended our conversation with last time, was talking about our fees and our definitions and priorities of users. And so we'd like to spend the bulk of our time on that because we think that's probably the hottest topic. And we hope the Wade Brummal is close to being able to button up. So are there any questions, comments, feedback on the Wade Brummal policy?
So on page 4, under line item 5, athletes are eligible for scholarship up to X per year. I thought we had decided that there was no limit on that.
Thought so too. And then I couldn't figure out what we wanted to say there. If we wanted to just say a scholarship applicable to their organizational fees, or.
I thought that's the way we had worded it, kind of.
Okay.
Was like.
Everybody has different fees for their organization. And
Right, like Cal charges so much for soccer, AYSO, they charge so much. We give a scholarship, they give a scholarship, we should get refunded as well as them. My thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's all based on you guys applying for this, for the reimbursement.
Yeah.
program. Yeah,
Sounds good.
so we can update that to just have some kind of clarification language that says commensurate with, organizational fees and individual player needs.
You're not sharing yet.
Yeah.
I think that's what you want to.
Yeah, I agree.
Am I not sharing?
Not yet. You're right. It's on your agenda still.
Correct. Yeah, online, it's just agenda.
Oh.
So go ahead and stop sign and then stop sharing and then pick the new document. Yeah.
There's also one it was with football, the SC line. I thought it was annual because I think it was Mike Conley. Maybe I'm getting that right?
Craig Conley.
Craig Conley, sorry.
Yeah.
It said that they have things that go on 2 or 3 across. So he was saying, we just do the annual, seasonal.
Right.
So I thought
We had decided annual. Okay. I just wanted to come back here and make sure.
Sure.
Okay,
So I was
so
making sure I thought that was a done deal.
annual. Okay, so that
And that
is
applies to all
all organizations.
You have fall and you have spring.
spring or
Yeah, he has-
baseball season.
So
He has year-round programs, even though they're slightly different. It's flag, it's conditioning, it's tackle.
Well, everybody does, right? They've got a spring season and a winter season and a fall season, right? And so then the fee would be once a year.
Yeah.
Okay. What page do you see that on, David? Page 1,
You mean-
page 1, Angelique.
that.
For the players.
So every time.
There's one for the
there are
fee
three different
application.
teams,
It's highlighted to be,
If you play football,
Going
you
on up.
do things in football and then you.
I understand. Yeah.
Softball or whatever it may be.
yeah, right there,
No,
there,
There's
annual.
two ways of looking at that as both the users and us is it's relative to the monies that get put in. Cause the goal is to put the money
Period.
back into the organization.
Yes.
So we're fine with that. I mean, it's really a way to recognize those that are out of the city, but then also take the monies and put them back into the programs. So if you all want to only pay one time a player, that just means there's potentially a smaller pot of money to then pump back into the organization. So
It
that's
could
fine.
be, but you could also have people outside the league that can have tons of money in their bank account, so it helps.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, so if you don't pass it along, so you don't have to pass it along to the users. Yeah, it's both ways.
So annual,
Annual.
Yeah, that's fine.
And on page 3,
Because,
Try and track it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
There's not a way for us on our website to say, hey, Joe Schmo already paid in January, now he's coming back in fall. The website would just automatically charge him. We'd have to go back and do reimbursement.
but it can start till this next year, right? So.
Yeah.
What you need to define what annual means is in January 1st, because some seasons and some leagues roll over different timelines.
Yeah, it might be
Have to put a date in there.
helpful to do either a calendar or a fiscal year. Calendar might be cleaner.
calendar would be cleaner, but with the city system, isn't it fiscal?
It doesn't matter because this is a
Doesn't matter.
grant program.
Reimbursing based on the monies that come in from.
Yeah.
Calendar.
We do it annual calendar year, then for this part, then I think we were saying the grants applications would be due by July 1. So then that would give people time or groups time to prepare their application, find all their documentation, which Linda's talking about, and then submit.
So that would answer my next question on page 3.
Okay.
Under grant applications, light on 3. We have an X there. And like currently,
Yep.
all grant submissions are due by PAL, and I can only speak to PAL on July and January. We talked about it the other day. So if that's going to become annual or semi-annual,
We talked about for some groups,
Didn't want to.
yeah, we send it out at the end of their season, but for you, you have so 2 seasons, so we do at the end of season 1, at the end of season 2, so you have 2 dates. So it really isn't the same for every group.
This would change that. If they're paying their dues once a year, then their submission would be
Here.
once a year too.
Yeah.
Because West Side has 2.
It'll
And
be,
you would be carrying that, if we did the application once a year, you would be carrying that debt until reimbursement time.
can we use a July and a January?
You could say either July or January.
There you go.
yeah, well, yeah, that you can.
The agency could choose once a year, July or January.
And you guys cut checks once a year, right?
Well, for each group, right? So not once a year total for everybody, because like you said, some people would want to go in June and some people would want to go in January.
But we wouldn't allow a January and a July, they would have to choose one or the other.
Yeah, that doesn't, if it's one or the other, it doesn't necessarily help. Because we're gonna cut checks, you're saying cut checks once a year.
We're just having a conversation about it. I don't
Okay,
know
well,
what makes sense.
I'm trying to track, are we gonna submit to Park and Rec twice a year? And cut checks twice
Twice a year.
up, but not everybody will submit twice a year.
Right, just those that
And that's by sport.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right,
we're good with July and January. Okay,
Go ahead and write that in, Angelique, on 3. In January or
Well,
July.
Let's work let's talk through that as a group. Because there's a pot of money. And if you submit middle of the year and somebody else doesn't submit to the end of the year, how do I know?
How do you save money?
Yeah, how do
you balance it out?
Yeah, because you're asking for X and we usually at some point, the pot of money is gonna be relative to the allocate. We were running a little heavy, but we won't always be so heavy. So annually, this should get to the point of equalization where the money's coming in or close to the monies that are going out.
Right.
So if you ask for twice a year payment, but then, Lions or Little League does once a year, how am I gonna say, I'm only gonna give you X? And
So-
I gotta wait because I still gotta pay these other 5 groups that don't submit.
So if we do a July submission for everybody, they can bank or save up all their stuff
Yeah,
submitted at the one time.
yeah,
So you will be acceptable to see receipts and submissions from December of the year before.
yeah, yeah. So it would be that,
Well, that's if not doing it on a calendar, that's doing it on a fiscal year. So it's July 1 to June 30th. And that way we catch fall sports, winter and spring
Yeah.
sports.
All right, I'm okay with,
submission would be on the fiscal.
yeah.
Yeah, because then it'll catch, the season and submission, the grant period is fiscal. So then it catches all
Submissions.
seasons.
Okay, so back
It'd be-
up, Angelique,
July only then,
July 1 to June,
30.
due by July 1 for July 1 through June 30, the prior year.
The prior year.
Yeah,
June 30th. July 1. June 30th. I'd rather it just say June 30th, because then it's just, so the first one are due by June 30th. For July 1 through June 30th. They're due by June 30th.
Sorry, I am not a good.
No, you're good. No, that's good. Oh, no, you had it. Okay, that's fine. Now do for prior, now you can say for prior rather than not each calendar year, just say for prior fiscal year, and then you can put. So change calendar to fiscal. For prior fiscal year, and then in parentheses, you can put July 1 through June.
There you go.
When is your fiscal year, by the way?
That is it. July 1.
Okay, all right,
30.
thank you.
And then that way we can catch, if your first season is in the fall. We can
would
catch
include
you,
that.
yeah, we can catch you.
Include the winter.
Spring, or if you take registrations in the summer, you might start, I would imagine most summer programs start before June 30th, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Like you might,
Not what I-
maybe it's early to mid-June, you might start a season, but you're gonna take registrations before that, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
So when I am requesting, because we had this conversation at a previous meeting too, rosters for everybody, like that message goes out in April, we give you May and June to get your rosters together and rosters. That's when I turn around and call out invoices for Wade Brummal, so that way payments and everything are getting to us by June 30th.
and that would change. So going back up to when Wade Brummal is paid. Wade Brummal is paid annually by, I think we said January,
I'd say December 31st, so.
December 31st.
Yeah. Yeah. Where is that live, that statement?
Should probably live there where that highlighted $25 were, because that's where we identified annually fee by December.
31st or 30, whatever.
This is the fee that the participants pay here.
Yep,
Collection of the fee. This isn't the reimbursement.
yep. Somewhere in here, we have to say based on the calendar fee. Sports facility will pay an annual fee of 2,500% by 30.
Or do they just pay it by June 30th? And then we process reimbursement between July 1 and,
Which is what we've been doing.
yeah. So they just have.
If that matches what you're currently doing, why not keep it the same? Has it really,
My mind box.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
all right.
it's-
Go-
as long as you're not getting jammed up,
No,
Right.
it should run relative to you guys collecting your
That's-
fees.
For the most
And
part,
registering your.
most of your guys' seasons are finishing, so all of your rosters and everything are sort of being cleaned up and finished. And you would have that. That's how we've been.
Yeah,
Working.
I would
Okay.
some kind of mirror to the
All right,
application. Because you're applying for your grant reimbursements towards the end after, right after you know,
Reconciled all the-
after you've reconciled your registration.
yes.
And or you've purchased some other gear or equipment or special, like, right?
I think so.
Okay.
I had a question. If we're
Go
done
for
with
it,
that one.
Julie.
Okay, page 3 under limit of requests.
Okay,
For
keep
number-
going, scrolling down, limit of the request.
So number
Okay.
4,
Uh-huh.
that compared to page 5 under priorities for excess funding, I just want to know how they differ.
Okay, that, and then priorities of excess funding. I think it's up, Angelique.
A little,
What page was that?
page 5, I believe.
Oh. What's this first paragraph on page 5?
It's in the event of a balance in excess of 15,000 remains in the scholarship fund at the end of the fiscal year, the balance shall be carried over to the next fiscal year for a one-time round of grants. So I'm just trying to see how those two compare to each other.
Go down a little bit. Keep going. Is that
Lots of scholarship.
right there? Is it in here somewhere?
Right here, yeah, at the very bottom, right there, bottom
Okay.
paragraph. Right above number 1.
I think this one's right. I don't think the 50,000 is right. I think
I think I agree with you.
This was our second part of the conversation.
yeah, okay, so highlight this one and then write yourself a note that will change this.
15 or, okay. That's
Yeah, they don't match, so.
We don't know.
And I think you're right, Kim. I think it was the
That was
15.
my understanding too, so I just want to, they just seem to conflict.
Good, thank you. Write a little, oh, you got it on your paper? Okay. We got it on a paper. Part of the problem, we lost a lot of the notes, so in the transition, so that's why we appreciate you guys' feedback on this.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
On this.
Yep.
Is there any other, anything else anybody else caught?
Thanks, Dale. All right, cool. So what our plan would be is to clean these things up and then I think there's no reason why we can't take this to the commission in January then.
Yeah, let's clean it up and then let's send it for one more.
Look-see.
Yeah, we'll circulate to the groups and then they can send back if there's anything we missed.
We are no longer doing this part though, right? The scholarships provide eligibility criteria to see the account.
Yeah, we're not doing that. Take that out.
Doing that. They're submitting it to their organization.
Yeah, take all that out.
Hey, Kim, can I ask a question? Sorry, it took me a second to
Sure.
find my mute button for a second there. On page 1 on the program definitions, item number 3, where it says nonprofit. One thing that got me there as I was reading it, it said Santa Clara based. And I'm not sure, is that why is it specific to Santa Clara based as nonprofit? 'Cause
So
have
if you
residency options listed above. And youth
Listed
resident. And then why would
above.
a nonprofit be restricted to be resident only or Santa Clara based? Because that's not really specific. Is it overly specific to say Santa Clara based nonprofits only?
Your time.
Yeah, it's the intent is to this program, and it aligns with the next conversation that we're gonna have around the
Okay, good.
fees and the prioritization. So we're trying to get that definition based on the conversations that this group has had.
Okay.
That they'd like to see the nonprofit classification be changed to be a Santa Clara-based nonprofit and defined as 51% as it used to be defined.
Okay,
So you'll see that in the fees conversation. So this
Okay.
document was trying to be
Aligned to that.
consistent with the fees conversation.
yeah, I understand that.
Okay, thanks. Good question.
Yeah, the reason I ask is that it impacts us. If it's gonna go that direction, I think it's gonna push us out of the program.
Okay. Okay, any other questions about Wade Brummal?
And everybody, we'll send this one more time and we'll give a deadline for everybody to ask questions or give any other feedback, and then we'll let it, we'll run it up we'll go through Parks and Rec.
Just let us know when you're submitting it to Parks and Rec so we can
Yeah,
be there to support you.
Yeah.
Can I ask a slightly, I know this is a terrible question, because you've been doing definitions of this document. The word Santa Clara based needs to be more specific then. Right now it's too vague.
Good, okay.
If you're gonna be,
Well-
because you're gonna say Santa Clara based, what does that mean? Person registering is the Santa Clara, the students of Santa Clara, the 51% you're talking about before is in a different document. It's not in here. So maybe you just refer to the other document for that definition.
Or use the same
Santa
use
Clara.
the same definition.
It's nonprofit. We'll come up with go ahead and highlight that. We'll just have to.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm helping you here. 'Cause it's against me, but I want to make sure that at least it helps you for the future person who comes in and says, what does this mean? Right.
Thank you,
Yeah,
thank you.
Because, one of the things we notice is that Comcast side having 51% Santa Clara base is very different. Even you combine with recreational, right?
Yeah, but that's also why we want the nonprofits to at least be a resident.
Santa Clara
Clara
nonprofit.
based or a resident nonprofit, or the address, we'll come up with something as plain and
So
clear
you're-
as possible.
So the address should be Santa Clara, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, your nonprofit has to be registered with an address.
In Santa Clara.
Yes, that's gonna be hard for like
So
our
that's stop
partners.
people from going and getting a PO box that live in San Francisco and run a nonprofit.
Yeah, because they're nonprofit.
Right.
Needs to
Yeah,
have,
but that'd be a problem because like I figured AYSO, it's a nonprofit, but our nonprofit status address is out of Torrance, California. Because they
Yeah.
own the tax ID. We don't. So that's gone down far. So we'll not ever be specifically based unless that one group only lives in Santa Clara.
okay, yeah. You can't have can AYSO have an office in Santa Clara?
No, the AYSO is national and actually international now. So I don't think they only have like, I think 2 tax IDs and one of them is based for adults and one of them is based for children.
A youth and an adult, okay.
And the chapters, Michael, don't have their own?
No, they all have one. We all actually national owns our bank accounts too. So we
Oh, I see.
we can't actually, they have access to, they can pull our money anytime they want to.
Yeah, well, it's not a great business model for AYSO.
Oh,
Most
we vote them
cities
out.
have-
That's the good
Most
thing.
cities have, I mean, every city I've worked in Benchmark has resident nonprofits, so.
Yeah.
Fremont, Santa Clara, Campbell, Sunnyvale.
Shadows.
It does as well.
San Jose, yeah, so for AYSO to continue to operate like that is not.
I think the one we're trying to fight against is the competitive teams like, I'm not gonna pick on Tianza for so much, but teams that have a nonprofit arm and use the nonprofit to get the nonprofit rate, but still run comp teams out there. Those are the ones I watch out for.
Okay,
Are we, other than this one clarification for and or definition of tightening up the nonprofit, everybody, at least on the call or in the room, feels good where we're at for Wade Brummal in terms of the language.
okay, all right, cool. Let's go ahead and
Thank you.
put this one down. Thank you. If anything comes up while you're still sitting here, you go back and feel free to email the group back out. Okay, let's bring up Angelique, the other policy or categories and fees. So last meeting, we just began a conversation around field user priorities and categories and definitions, and where we should go from that. And so as a team, we met internally and sort of tried to spell out what we thought we heard from this group last month. And so this is our first sort of unveiling to you all to see if we heard you right. And same conversation like we were having on Wade Brummal, how do these definitions, are these definitions in line with the conversation that was had last month? And then you'll see the current, so the priority of funding or priority of allocation is the 1 through 6. The feed users categories is here, and then their definitions are below. The current field rental rate is there, and then what would happen next fiscal year. So basically, a status quo except for resident youth nonprofit. And then changes going out. Our municipal fee schedule gets adopted in April. And so these would get, whatever we decide would get rolled into that process and then go into effect July 1 of the year. So should we talk about the definitions? Would that help before we talk about the fees, or do you want to talk about the fees first?
I just want to comment that I'm actually proud to see that you guys have put a priority schedule in for users. 'Cause I think it wasn't initially published before, so you didn't really know. I'm glad to see you guys have done that. Put that, at least that definition in front so people know where they sit within that family. So it's actually much easier to see.
Yeah.
I do comment though, that I think you should have a non-resident nonprofit group in there someplace. But it's up to you guys. How, I mean, as a city resident, I'd love to have one in there. Also helps us too, because we are in that category where we definitely are not non-resident. We support Santa Clara's residents as we go through our program. But I recognize there's no category that fits in there. We'd be pushed into non-resident, and at that fee rate, we wouldn't bother renting the fields. So it's sort of a loss.
Yeah, but are you also interested in a non-resident nonprofit that is lower than a resident rate?
Yes. Maybe the resident rate we probably could work with. That's still quite high. When we do current other fields, the nonprofit rate is $30 an hour. And those are grass fields. So I'm just giving you that's what we see out of Cooper. We see that out of Saratoga. Cupertino has the same rate, $30 an hour. And I think what is it for San Jose?
So nonprofit, non-resident is usually in line with the resident rate?
No, I think the nonprofit is much lower than the resident rate.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to research that rate and explore it.
Yeah, my goal is not to derail the conversation, but just to sort of ask if that could be injected.
Yeah. We'll look into it. Thank you. And we got your email also.
I have the same questions.
Yeah.
Stuff with quicks.
And also keeping in mind that whatever definitions are finalized is how we will move forward in whatever structure we do our allocating.
For allocation.
Do you want to break the non-resident line item 5 into 2 categories now?
It could. We're gonna.
Non-resident and non-resident nonprofit.
Yeah, so it could be a 5A and a 5B. But they don't, yeah.
Isn't commercial technically a non-resident?
No.
Oh, that's businesses.
Business, okay.
Yeah.
That's how I read commercial, is
Yeah.
business.
That's
I
why
think
we have
non-resident.
higher.
Okay.
We get requests for commercials, like people wanting to film commercials on the fields. Or high-end for-profit camps wanting to come in and rent the fields.
Yep.
So there's definitely a place for commercial.
People pay $280.
Traveling tournaments, yeah, that charge, exactly.
They cut things like that.
State Cup things, yeah, exactly.
We're trying to understand why we want a different line for the non-resident nonprofit, and the only thing we're coming up with is you want to reduce fee for the fields. But you're not a resident, you pay taxes. So why are we trying to get that reduced rate for our fields? And
I
ours,
think it's because it's a resident who is requesting who is representing the group. I think part of the requirement is you have to be a resident to even apply.
Yeah, so I think there's a real thread needle opportunity on that, but we're gonna look into it.
Okay.
But the way I see it, it could potentially be where we use some sort of, you may not be a resident, but you have to be serving 50% Santa Clara residents when you're using our field. So I don't know, because
There's gotta be a hook.
yeah, there.
Yeah, that might be an impossible hook, because you think about it,
Yeah.
we play other teams who are not residents.
Yeah,
So
but
you're never
it
gonna
would
get
need to
that
be
number.
some sort of tie-in to a Santa Clara residency. So the nonprofit itself may not have an address, but it needs to benefit like residents of Santa Clara. So like I said, we're not gonna design the language here in the room. I'm gonna have to research it and see if there's other examples.
They could be Cupertino based, but they have a team that's made up of all Santa Clara children. They get a little bit of a break.
Correct. So, or it's a large, well, in this case, in this gentleman's case, AYSO, it's a national organization, but there's Santa Clara based teams. They will never be able to achieve an AYSO Santa Clara resident nonprofit. However, if they're running leagues in Santa Clara for Santa Clara kids, but AYSO will never be located in Santa Clara, there might be a way to kind of carve out an opportunity, but I have to really look into, it's very unique.
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation. I really do. This is really helpful for us, and I think it may be others who maybe also have the same issue.
Santa Clara residents shouldn't be applying for anything for the group.
Yeah.
As far as organizations go.
Oh, I'm the actual regional commissioner and I'm Santa Clara resident, so it's kind of.
Even if you are Santa Clara resident, you're not supposed to be applying for the group.
Yeah, that's why he's asking for an additional line and what that line might look like, but I can't say whether we will do it. I'm at least telling our constituency that we'll look into it.
And I appreciate that. I really do. It's we're here to go make it easier for the kids. I want to make sure at least also that for you guys, the fields are used and not get to a point where the fields are vacant. Right. So
Yeah.
we'd fill that gap.
So the next meeting, we can have some sort of clarification on that.
Yeah, we'll research it and we'll talk about it both as an organization and we'll look in our benchmarking agencies and see what we're seeing in that.
And which is why I appreciate the organization sequence, because all the like the Santa Clara Valley Youth Soccer, which is already in that higher level, should get the priority. They service the direct community. They are Santa Clara based. They're focused there. I think that's the right way to put them in these priority sequence you have.
Yeah. And then we'll double check our nonprofit language here. If I want to.
Wait, don't go so fast. I have a comment. So under, where was it? Number 4. It says player/athlete 18 and under. But if you go back to the Wade Brummal on the first page, under program definitions, line item 2, it says the age of 19. So we should probably do one or the other, so there's no confusion. So it matches.
Well, this says 19 even there, number 3 resident. Oh, that's 19 and older. Yeah.
I'm just saying they should match.
Yeah.
So I can't use the one that's 19 to my advantage to get the lower rate.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Which number was that on the?
Brummal.
On the Wade Brummel, it's line item number 2 under program definitions, page 1.
Yeah, let's update Brummal. Any other feedback yet? So the other thing I wanted to highlight here for the group was that we haven't been able to conduct finalize market research on either synthetic or lights, but those are different rates. So we're proposing those in the out years. Well, lights will come into effect immediately. And there'll be a flat rate. And then synthetic, the proposal is that by 27, 28, we'll have a market rate price for synthetic.
And you'll use SVP's rates, Silicon Valley Power's rate, not PG&E's rates?
Not PG&E's,
For
right?
lights,
Yeah.
yeah. Lights are usually. I mean, I have a formula that I use for another organization where you took into account kilowatt hour, the actual cost of the bulb, how much it costs per hour for the contractor to come in with the high ranger, amortize that out by a whole pole. There's like 8 lights on a pole. I mean, we can get like that, or we can look at what's going on in the market and also see, and we can go by the median of the market rather than the high of the market. We can do some other things market based.
Because SVP power is so much lower.
Correct, but there's a lot of other variables that go into,
Right.
it's not.
Right, you're trying to get the full cost of
Correct.
replacing a light bulb, the manpower, the whole 9 yards. I get that.
So.
I'm okay with that, but.
Yeah, so it's not gonna be, the electrical is only one of the variables, so it won't, so that's why if we take like a median, it should be fine. We'll look at what it comes in at, and we can also try to run our formula and see how it pencils out, but
Okay.
I don't think it's that much cheaper, when you look at the whole package.
Okay. Well,
And it's like based on annual use, there's so many, like how many hours are you running the lights a year? You gotta divide that, yeah, it's.
right, the bulb's good for 400 hours. You amortize that
Yeah,
over a year's time, whatever.
yeah,
Yeah, there's formulas for everything now.
yeah, but that's like the devil is in the details, so I would rather look at what the market is and come in with like a low, medium and high, and then see how we stack up. But we haven't had a chance to do that yet. We'll bring that back, probably in January, February.
Okay.
I think we could probably go Brummal in February, so we'll send that, gives our staff time to update it, send it out. It's we're in the holidays.
Yeah, we lose 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
I know, thank you everybody for being here today. Wake up, it's gonna be Christmas. It's just crazy.
Exactly.
So we'll send that out early in the new year, give you a few, like a week or so in January, and then we'll have something in the can to put in our tracking system so that Parks and Rec can hear it in February. And then what we'll need.
He hasn't done stuff. We started getting some of the lights
Good.
and synthetic, so we're ahead of you.
Good, so we'll try to reconvene this group in mid to late January to look at light fees, future of synthetic, and also finalize our priority language. And we'll look at our internal calendars and look for something at the.
I think we have it already booked.
We have it already booked in January?
January, why is January?
Oh, we did.
Vote like hitting me.
Well, we'll look at what it is and see if it still makes sense. And if we're gonna there's no reason for us to get together if we don't have a real.
January, today's the 12th, that's why.
So either way, we'll come in towards the middle or late January and try to put a ribbon on this one too with everybody.
Yeah, we don't, sorry. I thought we booked out till,
I got
this was
meeting.
your last one, right?
So nobody's calling you a liar. Thank you, thanks everybody for your time today. If there's any other questions while we're all together, But I think we've got some good feedback to work from on this. Is there any other points? Mike, I know you brought up some things last time. Is there anything else relative to these that you see? Have you got a chance to review this?
I didn't know, I haven't thoroughly, I mean, I breezed through it, but I haven't really dove into it.
So we're gonna take a minor step, like it's clear that for youth nonprofit, we're gonna take a minor step back and then do a like a scaled approach to the.
Over 3 years, I know we talked about a 3-year escalation,
Yeah,
and then in
I'm curious
three,
what the starting point is $10.
yeah, I thought it was gonna be more like 8, 10, 12, but
Even that, just.
8,
well, we're at 14 now.
Yeah.
We're trying to get back to 14. So if you wanted it to go 8, so we're trying to make it somewhat even or make sense. It's hard to get from 8 to 14.
right, it
in 3 years.
doesn't adjust.
Yeah, so, if you guys want to provide some feedback on or suggestions, we can take those under advisement for, but the goal is to get to 14 in over a 3-year period.
Then is the goal to keep raising it every year, like at the.
No, beyond.
It's every 2 years.
14, we go to a market rate adjustment. We didn't put out beyond the third, but do you see how we see in the non-residents?
I guess I'm curious what the calculations would be for that, because.
After that, we would go, it's usually.
It's usually a,
3%.
it's usually based on CPI, so it's 2 to 3%.
Yeah.
Annually.
Yeah.
But we adjust our budget in the city
Years.
every 2 years. So it would be an adjustment.
No, it's built in. We come to do the budget every 2 years, but you build a 2-year adjustment.
Forecast?
Yep, and then they also do a mid-year adjustment. So, but we can write in we can write market rate, or we can write in CPI. We can update.
Sure.
I think CPI would be better,
Okay,
because market rate could be, you're gonna start charging $100 an hour like the school district does. Right? And that's market rate.
Those,
I know you wouldn't.
Yeah.
I hope you wouldn't, but
we can look at that.
yeah,
And we can also write some language, market CPI and market rate.
right, a little,
3 to 5%, no greater than 5.
yeah, a little explanation.
Yeah, we'll put some language around what we mean by the escalator, so everybody feels.
Okay.
But you're not gonna use the school because the school's more expensive. So
No.
you like to call that as a.
No.
No, we're not, we don't benchmark them currently. We currently benchmark other cities, not schools.
And then what is the current market rate, you know?
That was my question with benchmarks, because when we saw the benchmarks, we were pulling cities from way out, and then we weren't pulling in cities like Milpitas.
Yeah,
And so I think
Who
that's
charge
where
zero.
my personal rub
Charge what?
is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't charge anything, but
So-
that's where my personal rub is like.
we'll add in benchmark agencies so that, that way, in full transparency, the leagues can see who we're looking at. When we're gathering our information, it's usually between 7 and 10, be like Sunnyvale, Mountain View, Milpitas, San Jose, Campbell, so it'll be in the San Jose area.
It'll be in the city, because
Okay,
I,
that's
But that's
important.
not
Yeah.
what we did to get to these numbers, is what I'm saying.
right,
You know, that benchmarking happened prior to many of us, so.
Yeah.
So that's for like my run, is for like my organization, right? I don't think like people realize that these sort of people pay for.
But we're open to the idea of getting to 14, but how you get there, you're open to that.
Well, that was why we were trying to talk about the Youth Sports Foundation, and really funnel money into to help all of this.
mhm.
It's kind of like the library foundation.
right.
The community would need to,
But yeah, that's.
Come up and
that's not
that
as-
we wouldn't,
It's not,
Yeah,
that would be the private.
like a Friends of Library or a Friends of Santa Clara.
Friends of Santa Clara High, or Santa Clara Unified, Friends of the Library,
Yeah,
all those.
okay, so we'll put in some CPI and or more defined adjustment language we'll add in the cities that we're gonna use as benchmarking.
Yeah,
Okay,
and their current rates.
yeah,
Like if you use Milpitas, it's gonna be 0. Right? Because they don't charge. You use Cupertino, I think they're 17 an hour. I think it was. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my
yeah,
head.
we'll pull some cities.
Yeah.
It'll be Santa Clara County based.
Yeah.
It'll be between Morganville and Palo Alto.
Yeah, because I mean, I've seen some of the studies where they pull in Santa Rosa and Nevada, and it's like, that has nothing to do with the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Use the same cities.
Like a dozen, right?
Okay, so we have a good start. And
I do find that Redwood City is pretty comparable in terms of demographics. It's Santa Clara, size wise, but they're in a different county, but I comp them for other things. I haven't done it for fields.
San Jose is really not fair because they have over 1 million citizens.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's
why
not
mine-
fair.
I don't know, they have $8 an hour.
Yeah.
Fields that, for the grass field, but their turf field.
where's this?
San Jose.
Can I ask you a question? What is your strategy around market rate? I mean, it sounds like I want to be in the middle, or do you want to be on the low end of the market, or do you want to be on the high end of the market? What is your philosophy of where you want to be in the market rate?
Good point.
Well, it'll probably be somewhere in the average or the median.
I mean,
And the reason I asked that, because I remember part of one of the city council meetings, they said we shouldn't be charging anything. So I just want to, maybe it's a question to ask back to city council. I mean, they already too busy, all this stuff they have to worry about, but maybe ask that direction they want to go in, and then that way we're aligned to it.
Yeah, but this is application to the non-resident and the commercial rates. So wouldn't really affect the,
it wouldn't.
Well,
The
even the resident
nonprofit rate.
nonprofit, I remember they said they wanted to charge nothing initially, right? So that was the conversation I remember hearing you talking about. So maybe he's asking that question on your market rate adjustments. They may say, we still want to be the lowest fees in the region.
They could, we'll have to, in our report to council, we'll have to show who our benchmarking agencies are, what staff is using to come up with the rate, and also give council an opportunity whether they want to adjust that. Just because it's staff recommendation or report, but we'll provide them with as much information to make an informed decision on how we move forward.
And I think there was a comment that says, as long as you're able to cover your costs. I think that was the comment.
Yeah, which is with grass, it's a lot different than synthetic when you look at the long term. My goal also, just so this group knows, because not in a baseball, it doesn't apply, but like my goal is to it's pretty well documented that we're in a little bit of an issue with the International Swim Center in terms of its aging infrastructure and or the ability to keep that particular facility up, and we don't want to run into something like that again with the synthetic field. So we're looking at when we bring synthetic online, it'll also, the other reason why we're putting it out is we want to work with our finance department to come up with a way to earmark some of the funds we take in as an organization for synthetic to go towards the replacement of the synthetic.
Yeah, like a capital investment fund.
Yes, correct. Yeah, which right now we don't have. So I didn't want to start.
As long as it stays in that pot of money.
Yeah, it won't be 100% because there's other factors like we've talked about, maintenance, staff, reservation systems and things like that, but it should be well over 50% of the fees received for these fields or in that ballpark. Whatever, we'll work with finance and they'll tell us what they think, I'll tell them what I think, and then we'll somewhere.
Deferred maintenance ultimately costs you 3 times what it would have if you would have done it. when
Yeah,
it was new.
one soccer field.
I mean, these are only already 4 years old, right?
What's that?
These are already 4 years old
Yeah.
and they're meant to go 8 to 10. So
8 to 10 on the carpet's about $1 million, and then the pads are 20 to 25.
Yep. But you also have that big push now to get rid of turf fields.
Well, yeah.
And I don't know how much traction that has yet, but
I think
it has been talked about.
The most. But
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a holding pattern as opposed to getting rid of it right now. I think the turf industry is doing some research and some things that they probably should have been doing in the beginning in terms of recyclable products and heats and things and the infills and stuff. You had a.
Yeah, so the Niners give us $200,000 a year for nonprofit and community projects. Is that money, can't some of that money be used for some of these fees to keep these down? It's supposed to be nonprofit. This is the other thing too, is on Parks and Recs, that school district took some money, Suds and Karen, for robotics at Wilcox, which is should be coming out of the school, not coming out of this. This is taking money from kids, the nonprofit. So what
That just got approved. You talking about as part of the settlement? The money from the Niners. We haven't sat down as an organization yet to know.
that should really help here. If it's 200,000 for nonprofit sports, that should be able to really keep these fees not.
We'll look into that also. The other thing that can help us do is work on whether it has to go direct or indirect, like on some of the replacement to keep some of these facilities up, so.
It sounded like the money wasn't all being used either, and then the leftover was being put into the general fund.
It goes to the general fund.
Yeah.
But it's taking the percentage of for youth sports and senior all goes to general fund.
Yes.
For any ticket sales out of the stadium, which is
How do you
ridiculous.
track the 200,000?
Right now, they don't do functional budgeting on any of our recreation revenue. It all goes into the general fund. And then the other way of looking at it is we're 100% subsidized by the general fund, by taxpayers. They don't run anything in the Parks and Recreation Department as an enterprise. So one of the things we're talking about when looking at the synthetics is creating a capital replacement fund. And if, for instance, the council and the powers that be are interested in using those funds for youth sports, it's for youth programs. I don't know I can't remember if it's youth programs or youth sports.
It's just nonprofit.
Youth nonprofit.
Community.
Correct. So if they wanted to use a portion of that, we finance would set up a sub account.
Yeah.
And then give us a portion of it, and then we would use it either in this area. Realistically, it'd be great if we had a way to track monies in, monies out on bill usage. And then we could take those types of monies to help offset, if that's what the city wants to do with it. That money just came through, it's kind of happening while we're still doing this.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that it's not a possibility. It's not, we're not gonna get that figured out between now and July 1 when these fees are gonna kick in. So give us some feedback on these fees. This is our way of trying to quantitatively ease the cost to the league, so you can plan on it on a go forward. It's not like hey, tomorrow we're gonna charge $14 an hour, so that way you all, as you're setting your league fees and or your budgets, you can.
No, I understand that, but if 200,000 is supposed to be earmarked for
Use that.
nonprofit and community.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that's not going to the school district. That's one, because they have their own budget.
Mhm.
So whether they take 10 or 20,000 for robotics or whatever they're trying to do, that's 10 or 12,000 for sports or other community, because I guess the central, right? Anything that's done there for sports and the community events, does that come out of Parks and Recs as well?
Yeah, that's right.
So, there should be money earmarked for that, earmarked for the sports to help out, not going to the school.
Yeah, and they're correct. I agree with you.
We just need to look. I'm not expecting you to just fix it overnight.
No. Yeah. The tough thing, like I mentioned, it's all general fund, right? So everything we take in goes in the general fund. The general fund turns around and pays for everything we do. Salaries, maintenance, water, electric. I don't know if they've gotten to the point as an organization, like finance has already sat down and said, this is how we're gonna allocate this out. But I've heard you, we'll take note of that.
We'll take note of it. We'll ask.
Finance, if they have a plan, what that might be, or if there's been other discussions that none of us are aware of yet. And we'll try to see what, if any, plan we can communicate out the next time we get together.
That and who controls how that money's spent is what would be nice to understand too.
Okay.
I have two council members that are spending it on school stuff because it's their program. That's not benefiting where it's supposed to go. So, you know, it'd be interesting to find out how.
Prior, when the stadium first came out, there was earmark for youth and senior programs that went into our budget for what we call as needed salaries or casual employee salaries.
Direct service.
So direct services. So the part-time employees that you see running around with kids and in programs and that kind of thing. So
it goes direct to help offset direct services. Not like, so even though it doesn't, what you're saying is, so it also, in other words, it helps us keep the prices at 10 to 12 as an organization. So, but it goes into Parks and Recreation and the services we provide, because we're 100%
subsidized.
So it might,
But we recover 16% of our budget. Thank you very much.
Okay. We recover 16%. We'll try to figure out, see if there's been, and what Kim is saying is probably a little bit more in line with how we've used.
This was a newer allocation, and so we have to learn.
Yeah. So in a way, even though it's not, it won't appear in a line item on this, that is one way the city uses money from
I
their.
just want to make sure they do give you that 200,000, I'm saying, it's
Yeah.
not used for something else.
We'll look into that.
We'll look into it.
Thank you.
It's not the Niners would buy our city or anything like that,
Yeah.
but, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's good. And again, please, we gave it to you yesterday. We had tree lighting on Friday and a bunch of other stuff happening. So we tried to get out this a little earlier than we wanted to, but this isn't the last time. What we gave you yesterday and what we're doing today is a way to come together. We were at the very least hoping to finalize Brummal, which it sounds like we did. We'll come back together, and if you have some other ideas, suggestions, or feedback around fees, please either provide them in an email to us or bring them to the next time we come together.
And we'll look for a date, a second or third week of January, probably more like third week of January, third or fourth week of January.
Because you're gonna be on vacation during the holidays and,
Yeah.
Everything's gonna go take a dump during the holidays, so you're gonna have a madhouse when you get back.
I didn't have these. It was my first.
Time frame.
Hey, Kim, can I ask you a question, Kim?
Yeah, hold on. Wait, we're not done yet.
There's a-
Two more housekeeping things. Be quiet, Damon. One, we talked about the meeting time of this meeting. Should it be at a different time? We were trying to do lunchtime and before people started actually being on the field, like coaching wise, but we're sensitive that this might not be the best time. And then Michael, you had another question before we.
The
wrap.
question for you directly, Kim, is more in the sense of sort of what you're talking about, coaches in the field. Can the allocation of fields and times and this allocation of this rating system be done in December for spring? Because all of the other fields that are being allocated out within the area are all being done this week. So you guys, allocations are occurring like in February, and it's too late for us to actually plan out seasons. So I need to.
We'll put a seasonal allocation on this for next time, for
please.
sure.
Thank you.
Like the seasonal, we have it written
You do.
somewhere else. And so
In the other documentation,
Yeah.
I remember seeing it.
we'll add it in here. That's a good point. Thank you.
I mean, it's something that one cohesive document.
Yes.
Thank you.
Field allocation timelines when the lottery happens, or not lottery, but allocation
This particular document is mostly concentrated
on
on
fees.
priorities and the fee schedule.
Yeah, but that's a good point.
But yeah, it'll end up being merged.
Okay. Going back to the meeting time, any feedback? This is obviously working for you because you're all here.
Would you prefer one to go an evening for the next one? We could do.
I'm worried that an evening would people would be running into like they have to be on a field in the evening.
Or they're cooking, yeah.
They're cooking dinner.
Or-
Yeah, it depends, right? Because like people who work in the office can't make this meeting. or work in a job that has them out in the field, they can't, I mean, I'm talking like people who have other jobs besides this job.
Right. Right.
So you're missing a certain type of, maybe you alternate back and forth, give them different time.
Yeah, we're gonna make.
So maybe we should try and do it more like 11.
Before lunch?
11 might be better, and because we wouldn't impact school release. Okay, all right. Thanks, everybody. I think
you.
we're
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
today.
Thanks for all the hard work, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here.
Absolutely. Hey, at least you're working with us to get it hammered out, unlike the school district who just threw it out there to